don't get fooled by looking at Zomato, Urban Company, Meesho, or any of the other startups out there and thinking that's where you need to start. Most startups don't fail because the founders can't build. They fail because the founders build something that nobody wants. Your MVP should feel like a cheap student project. If you really love your MVP, it's probably not one. Hi everyone, my name is Tariq and I lead the undergraduate program at the Mesa School of Business. Welcome to the second video in the How to Start a Startup series. Today we'll cover all about minimum viable products. But before we jump in the last video, we learned about how you need to focus on deep, repeated customer pain points. If you haven't identified a clear customer pain point yet, pause here and go back. This video won't be helpful until you do. If you do have a customer pain point, let's move on to the next step, building a minimum viable product. Let's start with the basics. What is an MVP or minimum viable product? It's the bare bones version of your product that addresses the core pain point for your customer. Not your dream product, not polished, not perfect, just the cheapest and simplest functional version that you can put in front of your customers to answer the only question that matters. Will they actually pay for it? So why an MVP? Why not launch with the perfect product, packed with all the features, designs, and flawless functionalities that you've been dreaming about? It's a fair question. But taking that route is a rookie mistake that you should avoid like the plague. At the core, you build an MVP for just two things. First, no matter how many interviews, surveys, market research reports, or fancy number crunching you've done, you really don't know if you're really solving a customer pain point until you put something in front of them and they start paying for it. Second, no matter how smart you are, your idea of the perfect product is not what customers want. I can guarantee you that. If you start chasing that version, you could waste months, even years, pouring time, money, and energy into something that nobody buys. Finally, don't get fooled by looking at Zomato, Urban Company, Meesho, or any of the other startups out there and thinking that's where you need to start. Each and every single one of them started with something small, scrappy, and imperfect. Your MVP is just the same. It's not the end game. It's just the starting point. Now that we've figured out why you need an MVP, let's talk about how do you go about building it, right? There's no rocket science here. It's all about discipline. There are three key steps to building an MVP. The first thing that you need to do is to time box it. Give yourself a hard deadline and tell yourself that you'll ship it within that deadline. The second thing that you need to do is to write down the product specifications. Start down by writing down the primary customer pain point that you've identified. Then list down every feature that you think your solution should have from high priority to low priority. Now cross out features one by one until you are left only with the essentials, the features without which a customer simply won't buy your product. Be paranoid about keeping it lean. Finally, build it. Use the simplest tools you can. Don't overcomplicate it. Your goal isn't perfection, it's about proof. No complex tech, no automation, just the bare minimum. There are three or few principles that you need to keep in mind while building an MVP. The first thing is simple, ship fast. If it takes more than a month, it's not an MVP. Second, keep it scrappy. No fancy tech, no polish. Do it manually if you can. Third one is stay focused. Build only for a narrow set of users and nothing more. Finally, your MVP should feel like a cheap student project. If you really love your MVP, it's probably not one. Now let's get into a few examples. Let's take Urban Company. Their big question was simple. Do people actually want to book handyman services online instead of searching locally? And on the supply side, are good professionals even looking for more work? Instead of building a full marketplace with payments, ratings, and automation, they kept it brutally simple. They launched in just one city with a one-page website. Customers could pick from a few categories, drop their phone number, and that's it. Behind the scenes, the founders had a list of 10 reliable service providers. Whenever a request came in, they matched the customers and professionals manually, literally with Google Sheets, WhatsApp, and phone calls. Notice what they didn't build. No complex backend, no payment systems, no rating features, just the bare minimum to test if customers would actually use their service. Take Zappos, for example. The founder wanted to test a big question. Will people actually buy shoes online? So instead of building warehouses or inventory, he took photos of shoes in local stores, put them on a basic website, and listed them for sale. When a customer placed an order, he'd go back to the store, buy the pair at full price, and ship it. That's it. No supply chain, no logistics network, no massive inventory, just an MVP to test if people would actually click buy. Now let's look at the MVP that Airbnb started off with. The key question they were looking to ask was, will travelers actually choose to stay in someone else's home instead of a hotel? And on the flip side, are good hosts even willing to open up their homes to strangers? The MVP was ridiculously simple. They put together a one-page website with a few photos of a few homes. Travelers would request a booking, and that was it. Behind the scenes, everything ran on Excel. They lined up about 5 good hosts and 10 or 20 guests. Whenever someone booked, the founders managed everything manually. Matching the guests and hosts themselves, doing the payments, everything was manual. Notice what they did not bother with. No fancy listing platforms, no automated recommendation systems, no online payment system. Just a scrappy test to see if people on both sides would actually say yes. That's all what an MVP needs to be. The fastest way to test the core behavior that you're betting on. The last thing that I want to leave all of you with is, most startups don't fail because the founders can't build. They fail because the founders build something that nobody wants. That's why you should treat your MVP like an experiment. You're not building your finished product, you're just testing the market. If you have an idea right now, don't wait for the perfect circumstances to test it out. What I would tell you is to just ship a scrappy MVP to customers and start talking to them about why they're using it.